John Navin from John Navin and Associates is here tonight taking your phone calls, talking with us about just investments in general, but specifically we've been talking about some of the hidden fees that are involved, the risk versus return on your portfolio, and other items. And one of the things he's talked about is this stress test, right? And
yes.
Here's a great offer for you, everybody. If you want to give them a call, 615-656-3170, online, johnnavin.com. This is something that normally costs, you know,
$249.
$249 to run, and it's going to be free for viewers tonight. Tell them you saw them on OpenLine here on News Channel 5 Plus. Give them a call. Take advantage, folks. This is, I think it's an eye-opening experience for people, and then they start looking at the aggregate, and they look at, wow, wait a minute.
Well, you mentioned something when we were in the break, because what this will do as well is just give you good information. Where now you can make a decision. I think we get bombarded with so much stuff out there, we can't even make a decision because first of all, we become fearful for making the right one. We don't want to make the wrong one. So this test actually does that. It allows you to come back. We come back with 8 or 9 pages of information that you can take with you. Again, that's what we normally charge a fee for, but you can take it with you. You don't have to do anything further with us if you don't want to. You can take this to your existing broker. You can take it wherever you want to go. It's just a good way for you to look and see where you are and what's happening.
Right.
So.
And you mentioned all the information, you know, the internet. Gosh, there's so much out there. And if you're a regular layperson like myself, starts to dig and starts to, you know, do the Google searches, and you really can get overwhelmed, and it's not all accurate information, up-to-date information.
Correct.
Right.
And it may not apply to your personal situation.
Right.
Depends on what you're trying to achieve. Some of that information is good, some of it's overwhelming. The other thing is if it's on the internet, it's already happened. So if you were thinking, oh, I want to buy my own stocks and I want to get the most accurate information I can, you really have to be right at the forefront to find the best information. Because if it's on the internet, it's already happened.
What do you say to people who, I still to this day have friends every now and then will say, hey, I got a stock tip for you. It's like the old school, right? Says you ought to buy such and such. This is a tip I got, right?
Yes.
So, you know, my curiosity, I always go and look up the stock and read a little bit about it, but I never follow through with the tips. Should I? Unless, what if I find research, it's, you know, man, maybe I'll buy a little bit of this company, but I'm just not that type of investor. But there are people out there who still
that love it and do it.
Do they come to you and say, hey, John, I heard
those folks typically aren't coming to us. But or there are, let me back up, there are a lot of people that still like to trade a piece of their own account. So they come to us and they want us to lay out the cash, the income, the short-term money and the long-term money, but they want to still manage a piece of their own portfolio, and that's perfectly fine. Because as long as you take care of those first two, and really the first, if you have a balanced approach, you can trade, because then you don't have any risk. You can afford to let that go up and down. Hot stock tips, though, come all the time. And so I would caution people.
How long does it take, though? Do people have to have patience to get those first couple of buckets filled up? Or just depend on their situation?
Well, it depends on the situation. For example, you may have somebody that's been in their 401k for 30 years, and typically folks that come to us are in their 50s. There's a statistic that says 81% of the population change advisors within 5 years of retirement. So the people that got you to retirement aren't typically the ones that take you home. We specialize in taking you home. So we specialize in making sure that your money is doing exactly what you want it to do. So we aren't wealth accumulation experts. We're retirement income planning and distribution experts. So we work predominantly. So the tools are a little bit different. So we aren't looking for hot stocks that are going to go from pennies a share to, $10. We're looking to create a strategy that you don't have to worry about what you want to do the rest of your life. Right. And you can go live your life and know that your money's taken care of. You still get a great return. You still have wealth accumulation. But the other thing that's going to have an impact are taxes. We didn't talk about that, but taxes. Okay, sir.
Let's go to Joyce on line 1. Joyce, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wondered what Mr. Navin's opinion was about the couch potato investing, and perhaps what are the disadvantages of that someone who's not sophisticated might not know.
So you're asking if
couch potato investing.
Explain
define
that some
your
more.
terms.
Yeah.
Well, It's a term that I understand Scott Burns uses. He has a weekly column here in the local newspaper. And basically, you know, you can choose your stocks based on basically a non-proactive approach, the way I read it, and sort of set it on autopilot, and there's very low cost involved in that. So it's appealing to someone who doesn't understand a lot about it because of the cost savings, but I just wonder what Mr. Navin's opinion is of it.
Okay.
So you can sit back and be accountable.
If I understand correctly, Joyce, what I'm hearing you say is there are ways that you can put your portfolio kind of on autopilot. From what it sounds like you're saying is that they're using probably index funds, or they're using index portfolios, which means you're splitting your money into different indexes. Most mutual funds don't outperform the index. As a matter of fact, it's like 79% of them don't outperform the index. So there's an argument that says, why should I go or hire someone to go pick these stocks if they don't outperform the index anyway? I'd be better off just buying the index. And you could be couch potato investing. I'm not familiar with that term, but you could be couch potato investing where you could set it more on autopilot but you still have to diversify it, you still have to modify it, and more importantly than anything else, you have to reallocate that. Because what will happen is you spread that money out and you're doing these different indexes. Large caps are going to do great one year, small caps aren't going to do so good. So what you want to do every year is go back and reallocate it, which means sell off the ones that are doing well to buy the ones that aren't doing so well. Most people can't do that because they go, I'm not selling this. This thing's going crazy. Why would I sell this to buy the things that's not doing too well? Because it'll turn.
Does that make sense, Joyce?
Yes, it does. I appreciate your help. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So let's talk taxes a little bit.
Taxes, okay.
And the tax implications. Is it difficult? From what I understand, tax laws change, it seems like every year. There's something new, and you know, when it comes around tax time, you've got to really make sure your accountant or whoever you have in charge of your money is staying on top of all this. So long term, you know, by the time I retire, the tax code could be completely different. How do you even prepare for that?
Well, we've got to look at the code where it is today, and then plan around it. Or the other thing is, if you look at a 100-year average of taxes, people may think we're spending a lot of money on taxes, but right now the highest tax bracket is 35%, which you go back 20, 30 years, the highest tax bracket was 90%. Now there are more loopholes and more opportunities to move monies around that weren't seen, but you've got to work with the tax code that we have. Biggest thing I see there is the level of debt that the government has right now, extremely high. It's not going to go away. You have the largest percentage of the population that's starting to retire. So the workforce that's supposed to support these taxes is going to minimize, whereas that tax burden is still going to go up. They're projecting the deficit still to be around 22 trillion in the next 5 years, so we're still going up. At some point, we're going to pay the piper, so taxes are going to go up. That being said, it's important to find a tax planner, not just a tax preparer. Now, we don't do taxes. We understand taxes, we know them, but I wouldn't be the person that says, what do I put in line 8B?
Right.
We need someone to do that stuff, but we also want to find someone that when we go in to see them, we can sit down and actually say, okay, here's what our portfolio is doing, here's how things look, here's what I'm thinking about retiring, how can I make some changes to make sure I minimize my taxes? Most people go to the accountant January, give him a box of stuff, he plugs in the numbers for us, he comes back and says, you owe me $350, and by the way, you owe the IRS $2,200. We've got to look at ways to do the tax planning. And that's where I think hiring an advisor or finding someone that can help you navigate that and then go to the accountant or go to the expert, it'll help.
Okay.
Roth IRA could help. Remember a few weeks ago we had a lot of calls and questions about the Roth IRA.
Right.
So if you want, there's ways to minimize your taxes. How you take your income and where you take it from affects your taxes.
Is there a chance that the rules for the Roth IRA would change?
I don't think so.
Because I'm in one, and I've already paid the taxes on it.
Yep. No, I don't think so. I think they may change them going forward.
Yeah.
But I think if you're in it,
you're grandfathered in, right? Because I don't want to be taxed when I take this money out years from now. That's the whole idea, right?
But that's not to say that is correct.
Right.
But what they'll do is they'll do stuff. For example, line 8B, I just mentioned it, on your tax return is interest earned from tax-exempt investments. Why would the government want to know, which is like your municipal bonds, tax investments, why would they want to know how much interest you're earning from your tax-free investments? Because they use that in the calculation of the tax on your Social Security. So for retired folks who are starting to retire and they're thinking, oh, I could put all my money in these tax-free bonds and it won't hurt me. You do get tax-free interest, and they are starting to come up, so that's good. But they use that interest calculation to determine how much tax you pay on your Social Security. So they may not tax you on your Roth, but they're going to slip around the other side, and you got to be aware of
just
what.
Basically, they see how much value there is there, right?
Yeah. So then they get you on the other side.
They get you.
They're good. You got to know it.
Yeah, 615-737+. If you'd like to call in, Joyce, good question. We appreciate it. And that's another issue. Not just information on the internet. You turn on the TV, these, the business channels. Everywhere you look, there's someone offering.
Someone selling
money advice, financial advice. There are books. There's this. There's magazine articles in the paper, articles online, on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To disseminate all that information is tough, and a lot of them, maybe here's the latest trend in investing,
Yeah.
You're the long-term thinker.
Yes, yeah. And I would strongly encourage people to find someone that they can trust, but then that's kind of like a catch-22. Well, that's great. How do I do that? Well, most of our business comes from referral. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it comes from referral. We do get a lot of business from here, which is nice because people call in and this is fun to do and I enjoy it because I like the educating part and helping people. You can also look, though, when you're doing research on who you want to work with, you can look on the Better Business Bureau. You can look on the SEC.org and see how they're, if they have any, they call them dings on their reputation. You can check out the NASD. You can go to different sites where people are policing these people who are out there promising all this great stuff to make sure there's not any, again, dings or any violations.
It's up to the consumer, though, to do their homework.
Yes.
Beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And those are the questions that I would research. So not so much the best investments and the best tools and where do you go. You got to find somebody you can trust. Mm-hmm. Somebody, and I'll say if you're a married couple, somebody your wife can trust. I see a lot of men who control, or not control, take the reins, lead the financial aspect in the home. Well, man, we're going to pass away first. So make sure your wife is comfortable with whoever you're working with. So she should be asking the questions. Yeah. They're going to control the money, all the women.
You got it.
So
well,
Joyce, keep calling.
They're smarter. In my book, I think they're smarter, but that's just the way it is.
They are.
Better long-term thinkers. Anyway, we won't get into that. That's for a whole different open line.
Different show.
Talk about impulsiveness. We're going to take a break, everybody, and continue on with John right after this. Stay with us.